activists at the time said, "You're losing your economy, folks. Think about this. So you're talking about economic development, and you're completely losing track of the economic opportunities that the river provided." I don't want to go back to that argument. It was resolved in favor of the dam, and what has regrettably been, given the rainfall totals of the time in between, kind of a toilet bowl lake. Kind of goes up and down, flushes from time to time, but doesn't really provide the most attractive recreational opportunity, at least for some. So what do we do now? I don't want to get into the old arguments. I want to have a fight between environmental considerations and economic concerns. But I want to make sure that the social aspects are also included. And part of the social aspect here is a whole area that lost its recreational opportunities, and for that matter, economic as well, and is asking you in whatever ways we can to come up with a plan that at least restores some of the loss. I don't really think we have a whole lot of arguments here, except for the west side. You can go over D, and it has a lot of good aspects in it. I'm not criticizing D overall, but I think you've failed us on the economic and social elements of this and the balance required to include Calaveras and our side of it in ways that we were promised. And it may not be your agency that did all the promising. I know there were others involved, and that maybe you have no legal obligations our way, but there is a moral, economic, social, and environmental set of considerations that could be reconciled by altering just a couple of, and I'll point it out, it's in this wonderful section here where we actually get to take a look at it. But it's on the access to West Side and Bowie Flat. If alternative D was altered in a way that could encourage the restoration of some portion of our economy and recreational opportunity, in my view, alternative D could meet our needs. And I'm hoping that you will yet see fit. I thought perhaps we were completely out of the running because you've already selected your alternative, but your own words suggested that there was still some opportunity to be flexible if there was a strong voice in a cooperating agency and public desire to accomplish that. So I believe that desire is there. I think we are in need of rebalancing to at least restore some of our losses, and hope you'll take this as a constructive suggestion.
I do.
Thank you. Ross, did you want to say something?
I just, when we go see Mr. Glazer and Mr. Finnegan, I want Tom to go along.
What did you say?
He goes to see Mr. Glazer and Finnegan.
Okay, Gary, do you have any comments?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Let's open up.
Russ, oh no, Russ wanted to do
Oh,
his
he wants to
thing
do
first.
it before public?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to thank our Tech Services Department for setting up this computer for me here. What I'd like to, well, let's see if I can get this thing going. All right, what I have on the screen here is a Google Earth program showing the downtown area of Copperopolis. If you zoom in here, you can see the O'Byrne's Ferry Road coming down southward toward Lake Tulloch. I'm going to zoom out. If anybody gets airsick, just raise their hand. I can move more slowly. But looking at the proportionality here, this whole area here between the ridges is our the 35,000 acres or thereabouts that we have incorporated into the Copperopolis Community Plan. And don't anybody take the fact that I've used the word incorporated into the plan as a plan to incorporate the area. That's not the purpose of that statement. But we have Lake Tulloch here, which has a surface area of approximately 1,200 acres. If you zoom in on that area, anything that is up beyond this point right here is a 5-mile-an-hour zone. There's quite a lot of this area here that's in front of these homes in Poker Flat and Calypso, and some of those areas are restricted to 5 miles an hour, so that it's really not what you might classify as a completely usable for water skiing. Now, in contrast, the 1,200 acre surface lake to a 12,000 acre of surface. And I wanted to point out to you that from, let's use the ruler here, from this location, okay, from this location where the proposed road to Maloney's would go, if you want to go down here to this pathway, getting down to the a launch ramp, we've got a total of about 5 miles that to get to what currently is our only launch ramp in the north area of Lake Tulloch. Now, in contrast to that, we go from that same look. Come on. Need some training. From this location here going over to the Texas Charlie Gulch is about, straight line is 3.28 miles. The actual route that I'll show you on another slide here is about 4.5 miles. Okay, now let me fly you to the area here. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to show you another slide that will show us the detail of the improvements or proposed improvements in Texas Charlie Gulch. You'll see some the launch ramp facilities and the parking lots, and I want to make it clear that how those, the size and shape of those parking lots, how those were developed was by coming over here to Tuttletown, and if you look at the shape of these parking facilities here and the launch ramp, what we've done is actually lifted those electronically and moved them across to the Texas Charlie Gulch area. Okay, so getting back to okay, that's up in okay, that's the dam. I feel like a pilot who has lost my way here. Excuse me?
Since you look like one.
I look like one?
Lost his way.
Lost his way. All right. This is the, the New Maloney's, the marina, the existing marina, I think. I gotta go out, get my bearing again. Okay, here's the glory hole is right here. So let's look down here at the surface of the lake. I'm going to turn around here and zoom into that. Okay, right there where the pointer is the glory hole launch ramp. What we're proposing to do is to put this new access point right here in this Texas Charlie Gulch. If you look up on the top of the hill, this is the Bar 20 subdivision, some of these homes looking right down on the surface of the lake. The recreation management plan designates this area in this cove as a non-motorized access or non-motorized portion of the lake. I would submit to you that if you're going to get in a canoe and launch your canoe over here and go across all this open water to get over to that non-motorized area, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Whereas, if you were to come in to this point right here, where we have this proposed marina to go right here, you could easily, I mean, from this point over here to that point would be where the houseboats and boats would be moored, so that would be a 5-mile-an-hour area. You could easily take your kayak off the top of your car, and this whole area would be accessible to you in a non-motorized, non-threatening way. What I mentioned before about the prevailing winds, this terrain here would shelter in a storm condition. The boats could be moored in this area without danger of being capsized like they have done in the past. So if you look very closely, you can see that there's the old Sonora Road kind of comes down off of this hillside, comes down and down and down, and back in the 1860s, this was the way that you went from Copperopolis to Sonora down that same pathway. It's been suggested by some comments that I heard from the Bureau of Reclamation that the road would be too steep to be accessible, but I would submit to you that any road that was built back in the 1860s that was built for the purpose of freighting by mules and horses would certainly be to the slope angle that would be friendly to modern day conveniences or conveyances. So I want to stress that we've got water and power and fiber optics cable to this point right here, so it'd be very easy to get power, and there is the one drawback is that there are no septage facilities over here, but I've actually got that covered as well with the potential for a contract with the same vendor that is pumping the floating toilets on New Maloney's right now would be able to, with an agreement with CCWD, which they've expressed a willingness to do this, that the septage would be transported from this location, which incidentally the vendor is proposing to buy a boat that he could go out and pump your floating facilities now and avoid the $1,500 each day, each time that you bring those things in, to bring them in so they can pump them from the shore. That would be handled on at the locations where they're currently being moored. So that would have a beneficial effect as well. Okay, now let me go to some of these other things. This slide right here shows the end of the road. This property right here is the Morrissey property. You can see the boundary that shows the BLM boundary, and this is also BLM boundary over here. Interestingly, it is at a point right about where this pointer is located, is where the rock that Black Bart was hiding behind when he did his last and probably most famous robbery, where he dropped his handkerchief and all that stuff. So we have you talk about the cultural and social aspects of this, so you could go by and see that rock every time you go in. So going down this way and then turning back, you can see the lines of topography are quite widely spread here. This is the parking area that I talked about that we transported electronically from the other side of the lake, and then there's a link between another parking area. So this is extremely deep slopes going into the water here, so that the logistics of having a marina there would be in many ways less problematic than the existing location. When the water goes down, the marina would not have to be moved out as far as it currently is having to be moved, the floating portion of the marina. All right, there are other aspects of this that if you had the ability to get on my proposal is to have the ability to get on a bicycle at any portion of Copperopolis, say on the new trail system that we're proposing to build over on Little John Road. You could ride all the way on your bicycle from there up through this Morrissey property, come to this location, and then continue around the lake. You could go all the way to the fairgrounds or to Angels Camp. There'd be interconnectivity both in walking and in bicycle access as well. Here is this non-motorized area that I mentioned before. That is part of the plan. But as the Bureau of Reclamation, they've designated this as a non-motorized area, but how are they proposing for people to get from where they would be launching currently to get over there? I've seen white caps of significant height out in the middle of that lake. I don't think anybody would want to be out there in a canoe. Okay, this is shown as a straight line. I probably should have put it on the map as a dotted line to show that is the access of where the orientation of the ramp would go. You can see how the topographial lines really are very widely spaced here, which would indicate that it's less steep there, which I've been on the site, and it is so as plain as a nose on your face that you could put these facilities there with ease. The ramp would go out and provide year-round access to the water. Okay, going to another presentation here. Let's see. The thing that I would want to stress to the leadership of the Bureau of Reclamation is that with the Copperopolis Community Plan that we've got submitted to the Board of Supervisors, this area has the potential of growing over time, 30 years or more, to a population center that would have about 40,000 people living there. And here is the road that we're proposing to build. It would be entirely on Dr. Morrissey and his wife's property, coming to this point again where it would go down on the Bureau of Reclamation property. All right. Before I go into the financial aspects of this, anybody have any questions about the logistics or the buildability of this? Don't all.
There was water there. I don't think there was water in Bar 20 at the end of that work. I'm Al Segal, real estate broker, and I'm familiar with the Bar 20. I handle those parcels. There is power and telephone, and but there's no public water in the Bar 20 as you go out to the end of that court. So that's Shetland Court. Just a minor. It doesn't affect your presentation, just a minor correction.
Okay. Well, thank you for pointing that out, Al. That, of course, would be something that we would have to deal with if the Bureau wouldn't let us drill a well, and I'm certain that Dr. Morrissey would have no objection to us drilling a well and putting water down to those facilities. There's one aspect of this plan that seldom gets mentioned, but I think that it's certainly a very, very important part of it, is that for fire protection for this whole area here, there is no accessibility currently. If a fire got burning from these homes that are up here in the Bar 20 and started burning in the pathway of the prevailing wind, usual and customary prevailing wind, this whole area would be extremely susceptible to that fire because of the lack of current access with the fire protection apparatus. So that would be a very important and beneficial aspect of this plan. Okay. This In this presentation, it shows more of the bugs and bunnies. Let's go up here. Okay, there is an indentation in this ridge where this creek comes, the blue part here is a creek flowing down, so you can see it comes and bisects that ridge, making it very, well, it would be using essentially the same road way that is in existence right there. We have been asked by Dr. Morrissey and his wife to not go straight, because their home is here on a promontation that we've determined by on-site field measurements that if we were to swing the road around like this, it would provide the most realistic and sensitive buffer to preserve their view, which is incidentally quite remarkable view, so that they would prefer not to see traffic go across here. Well, another component of this plan is that we have no desire to have this be in and out 24 hours a day. It would be part of the Bureau's fee structure. There would be a gate here, and annual fees or daily fees would be charged that would certainly be adequate to fund whatever Bureau of Reclamation. You folks are going to have to put some skin in the game, and you would fully expect to be paid for that involvement, and so that's we're proposing to have that be a feed access. But there is a potential, and it's a very a wonderful potential site here for some local commercial development that would be appropriate for being put in there in conjunction with the recreational use back here. Okay, let's go to the financial justification. All right, Mr. Haley, could you come and help me with this a little bit? Or just go to the microphone. I want to stress that this is a concept of this road going to the reservoir is not exactly something that's like a Johnny-come-lately type of a proposal. We've been talking about this, and I first talked about this with Roger Beck almost 10 years ago, trying to find a way, and then more recently there were a couple of builders' summits, and I'll segue into Mr. Haley's comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, during the community plan...
Dave, could you just identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Dave Haley from Copperopolis. Over the past several years, while the Community Plan Committee was evolving the community plan that's now before the Board of Supervisors, we paralleled that effort with a couple of developer summits. In the developer summits, most of the land holdings within the Copperopolis area was attended by either landowners or developers. We had a unanimous consensus to agree to pay for a road to Maloney's through developer fees based on building permits. Reasons for that, when we saw the community plan horizon of a 25-30 year period and seeing what the population extent was, looking at the size of Lake Tulloch and seeing that there needed to be other recreational opportunities, we saw that it was a very important road. And at the time, and since that time, we've explored the cost of that road. We know what the road will cost, and we feel that a developer fee on all future permits that are allowed to be attached, some can't because of developer fees. We've taken that into consideration at the bottom. We think that we could build this road for a $700 per permit fee. Over time, due to costs and so on, it might increase to $850. We thought that even up to $1,000 is feasible for all of us. And so we support the need for the road. We support the effort, and we will agree to fund the road. So that was the purpose of this exercise, is identifying those properties that will pay into this fee.
Okay, so those builders' summits were attended by De Novo Homes and the developers of Tuscany Hills and
Oak Canyon Ranch, Castle and Cook, the Sanguinettis, all of the land holdings and developers that participated in this.
All right, so we've got the 24,000 lineal feet of road at either $300 or $250 per lineal foot for a cost range of $7 million to $6 million for the 4.55 miles. And then those would be the remaining homes in Saddle Creek and all these other projects that would have a potential for contributing. We've got almost 10,000 more units if the plan gets built out, right?
That's correct. It includes Saddle Creek. And the important part of all of this is it has to be recognized today so we can, once this community plan and general plan gets adopted, every permit from that day forward pays into this in order to accumulate the sum of money that's going to be necessary to build this in the future.
Okay, and these Oak Canyon, Tuscany Hills, these folks have their own development agreements that they would be immune from this fee.
They pay other recreational fees for other things that offset the balance of us paying for this.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, run that one by me again. I mean, if all new building are going to pay the fee, and then you said there were offsets to the fee?
Well, Oak Canyon Ranch has a development agreement that requires them to pay $6.5 million for recreational components within the Copperopolis community. That is about $2,000 per unit. So the rest of us developers felt that if we took $1,000 of our rest of our permits towards a recreational component, that it was reasonable.
That would not be an addition then to Oak Canyon?
No, Oak Canyon Ranch would stay as they are, and that's why on this chart, they're below the fee structure, just identified in total unit count only.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Chairman, that concludes my portion of the presentation. If anybody in the audience wants to comment or...
Thank you. Well done, Mr. Thomas. Okay. Are there any questions on the board of Mr. Thomas? I'll open it up for both the Bureau and Mr. Thomas. Could you please either direct questions if you have them? If not, and you just want to make comments, that's fine too. Mr. Segali.
Al Segali with the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. There was a two-care meeting a couple nights ago, which really ties into this. The speakers were from the Stewards of Liberty, which is an outfit that helps local communities protect themselves sometimes when the federal government does things that are hurtful for the local community. There is a law that's, I think it's called, let me read exactly. Federal agencies are required by law to make all practical efforts to make federal policies, plans, or actions consistent with local policies and plans. And what's happened all over America, they've been tremendous successes of little communities. Sometimes the entities involved several local entities like schools, supervisors, county government, and other local entities that have plans. The key is you have to have something that you want to do for your local area. In this case, you're concerned about our local economy, and you're also concerned about the federal government not honoring its promises that it made when it sold its project to Tuolumne County and Calaveras County. Tuolumne County has almost the same concerns that you do. And so What's required? Well, the first thing I'd recommend, they put together a regular, quite elaborate amount of information about this, and workbooks and everything. Would be contact Stewards of Liberty, probably, you just Google it, and then you'll get a lot of information. The key is you must have your own plans, and it sounds like Russ has come pretty close to have that. And then the federal government is required to treat you as an equal. Right now, you're being considered, explaining their policies to you. It'll be a little bit different. Then they need to look at your plans and then make their comments on it, and then reach an agreeable solution that would be equitable to all concerned. And as far as the expense, which is a very important consideration for the federal government, since it's bankrupt anyway, if the improvements are economically feasible, and certainly tourism and the use of New Orleans Lake would be, the feasibility of being able to bring this about in the future without using federal money is great. It's paying for itself. The Taxpayer Association does favor maximum commercial use of New Melones for the tourist industry, and also this west access is just a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Segali.
I'm Greg Meyer from Copperopolis. There's no sign-up sheet here, I guess. So I was glad today, if I understood correctly, Jeff, that the stated goals here are to provide lake access where it's appropriate, and to expand recreational opportunities and facilities in a manner where there's a managing partner that can be identified, and that's a reasonable situation, and economic feasibility can be shown or proven. And I also think that this can be done in a manner where it's compatible with recreational needs that we're asking for, and the environment can be conserved in a manner that's acceptable also. I do think, Jeff made some comments about the participation that we've had over the years here. And I do think that we've had pretty good participation at these meetings. When I look around the room, I know that at least some of us have been at these meetings where we expected more, I guess, more of an interactive type of a situation instead of a presentation type of a thing, which was somewhat what we saw today here. Also, I think there was a lot of input, a lot of comment that at least it was acknowledged by, if I'm recalling correctly, Melissa Brockman and Peggy Brooks and so forth, that came from the Copperopolis community. It was, my understanding, was a pretty good letter writing campaign. More input from any other area, although it didn't seem to play out that way in the way it was written up in the draft document. There was more emphasis put on outside of the county as opposed to inside of the county. So again, what we're requesting here is just it seems like at least in acreage terms, a minor piece of the pie here, where we may have 16,000 acres above the gross pool level out there. And we're looking at, what, maybe 15 acres other than road right-of-way, which would be maybe a half a mile or 3/8 of a mile, and grades that are at 8 or 9% that seem to be doable. And if we're having a situation where you're not presenting a plan or a package or an application, this seems to have had quite an impressive amount of work done here. So I guess what I'm thinking is, over the years, when we've, a handful of us, maybe at least prior to, I think this scoping process started anyway in 2006 in December. And prior to that, it's a little bit difficult to approach the bureaucracy with these concepts and these ideas, but we have at the local level and the regional level, and got it may be just passing or I'd like to sound positive type of comments, but it was always, oh, that's a great idea, but wait for the resource management plan process, right? And we have been part of that process, and now we're at the other end of the process, and all the efforts put forward, I'm in the same camp. I'm not seeing the willingness to cooperate here and to follow through with the promises and the commitments that were made early on. And I'm not going to go over them again, but I think there was an excellent job here of recalling the history of this and what was given up, the whitewater and the acreage and the agricultural uses and the tax base and everything else that was given up. And just a portion of what was committed at that point when the Corps of Engineers was here with the Bureau was these promises of recreational uses. Although I'm quite sure at that point everyone involved with this, outside of the Corps of Engineers or the Bureau, was assuming that we'd be just putting our fishing boats on a trailer and driving over to these sites, not having to provide the improvements and guarantee how we're going to maintain them and everything else that would be involved, which we're perfectly willing to do. So I don't think that any of what's been proposed here today is really a conflict with what was, what the premise of what was being proposed to us years ago when the Corps of Engineers was here selling this project. And since then, I've been part of or experienced different entities and agencies that have been advocating for this concept of increasing recreational uses on the western shore of the reservoir. And they're going to include, as we talked about, the Copperopolis Community Plan, which was, as you know, a huge ongoing process. The Lake Tulloch Task Force, which the obvious reasons are that we have an overused reservoir and we have an underused reservoir, and we're talking about a 4-mile route to get there. And we have Tridam that's been supportive of this for those reasons. We've got the Copperopolis Parks and Recreation Group, which we're here now, and I can say I'm representing as well. And we got the residents of the Copperopolis area. They're wondering why are we the only residents in the county that are being ignored as far as recreational uses here, as well as the rest of the county and you here at the Board of Supervisors that have been advocating this, and the landowners, including the primary and principal ones involved here, and the developers in the area. I attended the summit here, and I can say even developers outside of the participation there have never voiced any objection to supporting this. It's just a matter of practicality. When you have a more desirable lifestyle in a more desirable community, your product is worth more. So that's pretty much a no-brainer. I guess the biggest frustration here is that we're barely getting acknowledgement. We're not getting endorsement. And I can only say that as I read through the final document, and I bear with me just one second here, under, this is just an example, under 6.11.7.3, and that's effects from lands and transportation and access management, which is a reference quite often in here. We did gain, this is what we gained through this entire process, that under Alternative D, which would be the preferred alternative, reclamation would allow access to the west side management area via hiking, horseback, or boat. The acknowledgement is, however, these may not be viable forms of access for all visitors. Well, I can tell you it's not very easily accessed over there. It further says, under Alternative D, reclamation may consider a transportation route to allow vehicle access to west side. And I'm not an expert at this, but I'm sure that staff knows when you put in words like may consider, it's a lot weaker than, say, will consider. So that would be a comment I'd make there. I'd also say this document is quite a large document. And all the references you see through here that tie the west side to impacts that would be negative on the, they list different areas in the take area. And I think that west side being designated initially as a land use or a use area for recreation shouldn't be involved with all these negative impacts being pointed out. So I didn't mean to talk this long. I think that's the main topics that I wanted to just brush across. I think that our expectations years ago of just getting in the car, taking the boat over to these access points is maybe not realistic. I know that the situation has changed, that there needs to be a partnering with the Bureau to have these type of things happen. I think that we could come up with and be a managing partner. I think we could realistically have that happen. I just think that it's difficult to start this process when you have something less than an endorsement in the document. So again, we're talking about the original management plan being put together in '76. That is that 34 years ago? We were told we had to wait for this opportunity to get this concept into the plan, and it hasn't really that hasn't been accomplished in my mind. So are we looking at another 34 years before we can approach this type of thing? We can go off and independently try to come up with all of the difficult portions of this project, and then still have that question mark out there: are we going to have a partner that's fighting us all the way along the line? So I think that stronger language is a bare minimum here that allows to keep the door open to this type of thing happening. So
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
My name is Del Jackson from Copperopolis. This morning I'm representing the over 500 landowners at Poker Flat, and I'm also a member of the Copperopolis Parks and Rec. Just to put a little perspective together, this morning was the first time that I heard that from 1976 that there were supposed to be more than just 2 accesses to Lake New Melones. But we have 34 years of history that says you can't get the number of people there to make this a viable, profitable venture with only 2 roads and 2 marinas.
Could you just please address the board?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And so we have a solution to opening up the west side. And if we just do a little looking at history, had more facilities been available, and had there been just, say, 10 million more people over the last 34 years come to New Melones and to Calaveras County, and they each bought 50 gallons of gas at $2 a gallon, and you got 7 cents for sales tax, how much money would Tuolumne and Calaveras counties have received from having this lake used closer to its potential? And we have that opportunity to do that now, and I would suggest that now would be the time to correct something that's been wrong for 34 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I'd like to see the Parks and Rec Commissioner from District 5.
Good morning. I'm Tina McAfee with, I'm actually a Copperopolis resident. I sit on the board for Copperopolis Parks and Rec. I'm also the District 5 Parks and Rec Commissioner and a member of the Calaveras Saddle Club. One thing that all of these affiliations have in common is my family's interest in recreation. I think that the Copperopolis community approved the community plan, and specifically the Parks and Rec element of that community plan proves that the access is very well supported within Copper. I believe that the community plan should have represented the residents' desires in this process with the Board of Reclamation. Again, as it does show our support. I think that improved access to the lake, as well as the ability to increase the usage of the lake, is a highlight of the Copper Community Plan, as well as the county Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which we are currently in process of drafting. It's in a almost completed draft form. Allowing access to the west side of New Maloney's would not only decrease some of the trailer congestion on Highway 4, not just for boats. We tow a boat. We also tow horses in a trailer. Not one of my favorite routes to get to that side of the lake with either one of those trailers. There was mention of relocating the equestrian staging area, which we currently access from the south, what is that, west side? the Tuolumne side of the road. Don't know where that might be relocated to, and does it mean taking our horses over Highway 4 instead? So I'm not nearly as prepared as I would have liked to have been at this meeting, but I do want the board to know that as residents of Copper, the Park and Rec group that I represent, both locally in the community and as a commissioner, we strongly support the need for this western access and request that the board continue to pursue that activity. And in addition, might we request considering the addition of the County Parks and Rec Commission as a cooperating partner should we have the privilege of moving forward with the Bureau of Reclamation in this plan. Thank
That's
you.
well taken. Thank you, Ms. McAfee.
Good morning. My name's Darrell Rusk. Even without my glasses on, my name's still Darrell Rusk, although you've become somewhat blurry. It seems that the word partner has been used here quite a lot this morning, but the word partner hasn't been used with any real sincerity on the part of the federal government. Over 34 years, I haven't seen partnership in anything tangible, particularly with regard to the improvement of meeting the expectation of 3 million tourist usage persons per year. We're down to 1/4 of that, roughly. I think by having an additional access, you would do quite a few things. Certainly, you would improve the number of people using the lake. You'd certainly decrease the number of miles driven in automobiles pulling trailers, meaning they're under load, which means that there would be reduced air pollution because of the reduced mileage. Because there would be improved fire protection, fire suppression would be more efficient, and there would be less fire-related pollution. Both points address pollution issues that I would think the Air Quality Management Control District would be interested in. We have enough problems in the future with them as it is. The number of jobs that could be created, it's sort of like, let me use a comparison. Economists say that when a dollar is introduced into a community, that dollar is spent 7 times prior to it leaving the community. That's been a standard for many, many decades. Well, the same thing is true with jobs. A single job created on the lake or on the route to the lake in these 4.5 miles would be multiplied 7-fold in numbers of jobs down the road because of restaurant usage out of the area, increased tourists, as well as employees who are buying merchandise. If there is any way that I can encourage the federal government to be more cooperative, to be actually a real and tangible partner in this process, much more so than what I believe I've seen, I am very supportive of opening this door far broader than it is now. And I don't live in Copper. I live in the western part of the county in Burson. I am speaking for people who live in the western part of Calaveras County. That lake access would be a real benefit to us. So anything we can do to be supportive of this, either now or outside of Copperopolis, I'd be willing to start a letter campaign of my own. And I wouldn't even fake signatures. I'd use my own name 700 times. But the fact is, what I can do, I will do if you will let me and let me help. So,
Thank you, Mr. Rusk.
and yes, I do want to be added to the mailing list and the email list. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Darren Spellman, Rancho Calaveras. I appreciate all the people that have given comments today. I've taken a plethora of notes here, and there's been some really good stuff. Russ did an excellent presentation of what's being put forward here. And also Mr. Laird and his associate gave some inspiring and nice comments. One of the things that's become apparent to me as I listen to these proceedings is that Mr. Laird in his own comments here, and as explained also by another speaker, Mr. Meyer, stated that in option D, it does leave it on the table for some discussion for this project to move forward, although the verbiage isn't such that people are real excited about the way it's written. It's still there. Mr. Laird said in his comment, quote, he's not saying that there will never be a road on the west side, just that reclamation will not be funding it. So I think from the presentation today, it's clear that there's funding and people that want to be involved in that. Now, for those of you who may not know, Mr. Thomas proposed in the not-so-distant past a smaller project that didn't have support and did not have a managing entity. That was a kayak access near the Calypso Bay project on Tulloch. So when there are things like this in the mix, people tend to extrapolate those, and I fear that some of that might have gotten tagged onto this project from past experiences. One of the things that Mr. Laird said also was that he mentioned a document about partner compliance, which he had asked if Mr. Russ was privy to. Mr. Thomas said that he was privy to but had not read it. So from Mr. Laird's perspective, sitting listening to his testimony and things, somebody who deals with these things, that's their living and their livelihood. It's very insulting for somebody to bring these type of things without having read something like this partner document, which is something that's important to his agency, I'm sure. So I think that there's been a lot of things here today discussed that are great. I think that maybe there's just been some misunderstanding, and I hope that these things can be clarified so that our county can benefit economically from what's at stake here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions that people would like to address?
It's lunchtime. I'm Lynn Reed, and I'm a member of the Copperopolis community, the Parks and Rec Committee, and the Land Committee that's been meeting for a couple of years working on this project and proposal. And I would just like to reiterate and support what everybody else has said, And whatever influence the Board of Supervisors has with the Bureau of Reclamation to really focus on stronger language and action that will lead to access on the west side. As a 20-year boat user of Lake Tulloch, many people don't even use Lake Tulloch anymore. It's just so impacted, and there needs to be access. It would be helpful for Copperopolis as well as the entire community, and definitely economically feasible for the county. So I just support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to, Dave Haley again, I'd like to make another comment. I was talking on the financing side of it before. I think it's imperative that the board express upon the federal government that they don't just say may or something might happen in the future, that it shall be considered at this time, because if we don't put this into our community plan, our general plan, and our programmable EIR, we're going to miss the opportunity to start the funding process. And if we don't start the funding process immediately, we won't have the money necessary to implement it at the time that it's needed. So time is of the essence, and it needs to be dealt with at this time in this document. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr.
Al
Jackson.
Jackson again. I was part of the group that got public comment for letters to submit to the BOR. And one weekend I spent talking to folks who were coming and launching their boats onto Lake Tulloch. And we got many folks to write out and to do a reply that said they come from the flatland, Stockton, Tracy, who knows where, and sometimes further, and they drive up 4, and then they come to Lake Tulloch because they don't want to drive all the way up to the rest of the way to Angels Camp and the road to get to New Melones. However, if they could get to New Melones easier, they would love to do that. And obviously, as I said before, we have the solution to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Everybody gets a second chance. Let me throw my 2 cents out
Hurry up,
again.
because I'm going to close this off.
First off, I would just like to second what Dave Haley said. I do believe that time is of the essence. I think we have a history in this county of missing opportunities because we haven't been able to look far enough ahead, and we're making plans to get there. We're making plans now for later, and this is obviously a case where we need to have plans in place so that we can accumulate the funds. So 3, 5, 10 years down the road, as this county grows, we'll have that access. Secondly, if community input or input from the community was a concern to the Bureau of Reclamation, I would like to volunteer myself as a conduit to several recreation-focused organizations that would be more than happy to provide input about this plan, hopefully before its final implementation.
Thank you.
Mr.
Segali, you
No,
better make it.
I'm not representing the taxpayers.
No, I just want it quick. I want to do a wrap on this, please.
This is really fast.
Okay, hurry up.
Faster than you can blink. I'm representing now the Copperopolis Area Business Association. My wife couldn't make it, who's the president, and that association is in full support of Russ's plan on the West County development, New Melones.
Thank you. If anyone would like to address the board who has not addressed the board, then I'm closing public comment off. I am
Come on, address the board.
I'm bringing this back to the board.